Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Bad Iron Podcast. Today is Friday, December the 13th, 2024. Yes, I said Friday the 13th, 2024. And I don't have any Friday the 13th superstitions. None. I don't even know what most of them are. I do know that this podcast is named Bad Iron. And if any of you all have listened, you know what bad iron means. Bad iron means bad luck or bad fortune. So I have to do a podcast on Friday the 13th. Just have to. There's no other way around it. I don't know. I never really grew up with superstitions, although you probably heard me knock on wood several times. I guess that's a superstition. But today's Friday the 13th. The significance of the day is not only that it's Friday the 13th, it's also Taylor Swift's birthday. Happy birthday, Taylor. I know she's listening. I think she turns 35 today. That's a good number. And I think, if I remember correctly, that's her favorite number, probably because she's born on that day. She's done pretty good. She's overcome the 13 thing. So, congrats to her. So that's pretty significant. She was born on this day. So happy birthday, Taylor. Friday the 13th. I'm back from a short vacation to the south with my dogs, where I had a little bit of bad iron coming back, pulling a trailer, made it down fine. About 2 to 3 hours into the trip back home of about a 12-hour drive, I have a blowout on the trailer. It also damaged the trailer, so it took about 4 hours to find somebody to tow it, to find a place to park it, probably for the winter, because I don't think I'm ever going to drive a trailer again after that experience. So that was a little bad iron. It wasn't on the 13th, but it was earlier this week. And that made for a long trip back. But I'm back now. Happy to be back. It was a good trip. Other than that, a little bit of unfortune on the way back. But anyway, we're going to talk a little bit about Friday the 13th. It does go right along with bad iron. And I think there may have been there's usually 1 to 3 Friday the 13th a year, if I'm not mistaken. But there cannot be more than 3. And you can only have a Friday the 13th if the month starts on a Sunday, I believe is the case. That would be the 13 days. So month starts on a Sunday, you're going to have a Friday the 13th. So I think our next one is not until maybe June of next year. So this will be a very important one for us to talk about all the fun things with Friday the 13th. And we'll talk about a few games as well. There's not many college games. We got the playoff that's going to be starting in a couple weeks. So we're going to get into that next week. But we do have some NFL we'll talk about as well. But I just looked up some interesting facts about Friday the 13th that I had never thought of before. But evidently, the U.S. loses between $800 and $900 million on this day because people are scared to either go outside or shop or conduct any kind of business. 800 and 900 million dropped on Friday the 13th. That's not just in December. That's whenever a Friday the 13th happens. I thought that was curious. I definitely have not been out today, but not because of Friday the 13th. There's a phobia associated with Friday the 13th. So if you're afraid of Friday the 13th, then you have frigatriskaidekaphobia. That's right, frigatriskaidekaphobia. Triskaidekaphobia is the fear of number 13. Triskaidekaphobia. I got to be careful because this is safe for kids. I can't accidentally get that wrong. Triskaidekaphobia is the fear of 13. Frigatriskaidekaphobia is fear of Friday the 13th. Don't ask me why. I think there's a few names out there for it. So I looked up reasons why people are afraid of Friday the 13th. I'm mostly afraid of Friday the 13th because of the movie that I watched growing up, or the movies that I watched growing up. But it really dates back well before that. At least most people believe that it does. Most historians believe it goes all the way back to the Last Supper, which I had no idea that it came from that. But evidently in ancient times, the number 12 was considered a complete or like perfect number. I'm not sure why that was, but it signified completeness. So poor number 13, the next number, had to be unlucky. But if you go and you know anything about biblical history and the Last Supper, there were 12 apostles of Jesus, and the 13th one was Judas. We talked about Andrew being the first in our last podcast. Judas was number 13. Many of you may not have known that. So that is a lot of the reasons why a lot of people think 13 is associated with bad luck. Additionally, Jesus was crucified on a Friday. Nobody knows if it was Friday the 13th or what the calendar situation was. But all of that going together is pretty weird, if you ask me. So there's so many things that when I got to looking at this that have to do with 12 and 13 that I thought was interesting. Just a minute. Put this just in case. So, but I couldn't find a lot of significance with 13. It was more about 12. So I was like, man, there are a lot of things with 12. There's 12 months in the year. There's 12 hours of the clock, 12 tribes of Israel, 12 apostles of Jesus, 12 days of Christmas, which is coming up soon. There's 12 signs of the zodiac, 12 gods of Olympus, 12 labors of Hercules. And I think that was, I mean, there's 12 and a dozen, but I don't think that's significant. But I thought that's a lot of 12s that are pretty important. So maybe 12 is completeness. Maybe my lucky number should be 12. It used to be 15. Maybe it should be 12. But just in case, so I don't get bad luck, I better put this away. Scared all my animals away when that umbrella up inside the house. But I just thought all that kind of stuff was interesting. There's 13 full moons in a year. I did not know that. 13 full moons in a year, a calendar year. There were 13 steps to the gallows back in ancient times. You all know what gallows are. 13 steps to the gallows. That sounds scary. There's no. One of the things that I found interesting too is the sphere of 13 affects even a lot of people in development. It's not just random people on the streets or random kids or whatever. But I worked for a multifamily or apartment development company. We didn't put the 13th floor on any of our buildings. There was no 13th floor. Go straight from 12 to 14. I've seen that in hotels and other buildings. There's no 13th floor. Is it superstition? Is there something there? Hospitals. A lot of hospitals don't have a room 13. I've seen a lot of airports that skip gate 13. So anyway, just a lot of weird things happening, I think, on Friday the 13th. I'm not going to go into all of them right now. We do have some weird stuff happening in the Northeast right now with the drones. I'm not going to get into that as well. The drones in New Jersey, and maybe in 2 months we'll look back on this particular podcast and know more about what's going on there. But maybe there's some significance about what's going on, and it's Friday the 13th. I hope nothing bad happens this day. But that's a little bit about Friday the 13th and the superstitions. I mean, don't walk under a ladder today. Watch out for black cats. I haven't seen one in a while. Watch out for umbrellas. Don't step on a crack. What are the other ones? But I'm going to put a little poll up again. I like to put a poll up when I do these podcasts on the Bad Iron Podcast Twitter page. Hopefully someday we'll get more than like 5 or 6 votes to one of these. But the question I think I'm going to ask today, and I'd love for you to go vote, is do you have any kind of trepidation or fear of either the number 13 or Friday the 13th? Or is it just another day? Or do you spit in the face of Friday the 13th? I've already done 2 unlucky things, supposedly, here, just during this first 10 minutes of this podcast. So hopefully the superstitions aren't 100% real. If something happens to me today or tonight, then you know something's up there. But anyway, on to some sports. There are really no games on Friday the 13th that are worth paying attention to other than the NBA, which I could care less about. I do think there's some kind of tournament going on. That's the midseason tournament, but I'm not really interested in that. I do believe it's Oklahoma City playing somebody. I know Shea Alexander is evidently playing very well, but we're going to skip the NBA right now. There's really only one college game to speak of, college football game to speak of this weekend, and that's one of my favorite games of the year, Army Navy. Unbelievable that this game has been going on this long. We talked about it a little bit on the last podcast when we were talking about Black Friday and how this game used to be played on Black Friday, but now they play it later in the year because the games and the schedules keep getting longer. But I hope it's another snow game tomorrow. I don't know where it's played, actually. I'm not for sure certain. Seems like it plays in a different spot every year, but I love it when it snows. I believe it snowed in this game last year. But my particular way to look at this game, other than just enjoying it and watching it for the pure joy and honor and respect of the people in the Army and the people in the Navy, is just to watch the great football both teams have had pretty good years this year. And Army was very close to making the playoff, and some would argue still should be in it. If they would have played Notre Dame better, they might have gotten in. But alas, they still have this game, and it's going to be a fun one. Most of these armed forces games go under the total. And this total right now is 39. So I'm going to take under 39. That is a very low number, but almost always these games turn out under. It's really hard to predict who's going to win the game. Both teams have pretty good defenses, and they play close to the vest in this game, and they play hard, especially on defense. So I'm taking the under 39. We also have a big basketball game coming up. Well, I guess the backwards hat. I wore it because I thought that might be good luck, or rally cap, but I was turning around now. I got my little clover. Maybe that's good luck. I don't know. Put my cross on just in case anything bad happens. But I digress. Kentucky Louisville plays tomorrow in college basketball. There's a lot of good college basketball games. And later, after the football season's over, we'll get more into college basketball and looking at how to handicap those games and look at those games. But I'm still focused on football right now. But this game is a rival that goes not too far back, goes back to the mid 80s, really. It's been a pretty harsh rival, though, especially when Pitino and Calipari were both coaching. It was a very heated rival. Almost every game ended up in a fight, or there was a fight of some kind, or blood on the court in one way, shape, or form. The last couple of years, Louisville has really stunk, so it's not been a very good rival. But this year, we have two brand new coaches in this game, and Pat Kelsey for Louisville and Mark Pope for Kentucky. Every player other than walk-ons at Kentucky is new on this team. They're having a great season, ranked number 5, just beat Gonzaga out in Washington. Louisville's had an up and down season where they've had some good wins and some bad losses, but they have a pretty much completely new team as well. So it's impossible to predict, but Kentucky's playing in Rupp Arena. If their point guard, Lamont Butler, plays, Kentucky will cover the 10-point spread, in my opinion. If not, then I would probably lay off this game because he's very important to this team, and it'll probably be a close game. But if watch for Lamont Butler. If he plays and he's healthy, I do think Kentucky will cover the 10. They may even without him because they beat Gonzaga without him. And they're at home this time for this game, rivalry game. Mark Pope knows what the rivalry means, so he will definitely get that across to the players. The fans will be rowdy, I can promise you that. It's a late afternoon game. Watch out. Kentucky will be on the rise in this game and looking to destroy the Louisville Cardinals. So we're just going to move on to Sunday. Some of the NFL games. The first one we'll look at is Chiefs at Browns. And pretty much every game I've given you this year with the Chiefs has been successful except for one. And most of those I'm picking the other team, even though the Chiefs are my team. I'm mostly picking the other team because the Chiefs have historically been this way, and they've even more so been this way this year about winning just close games. It's just their style. I don't know what it is. They've had a ton of injuries, and everybody complains about or talks about other teams with injuries, but nobody cares if the Chiefs have injuries. But I'd argue they have more injuries to their best players than anybody else. losing their number one running back who just came back last week. Pacheco lost their number two running back, lost the number one wide receiver, lost the number two wide receiver, lost the number two tight end, lost an offensive tackle, lost an offensive guard, lost a defensive cornerback. Lots of starters have been lost, many of them for the season. But nobody says, woe is me to Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. But that's a big reason why most of their games have been inconsistent in one-score games. If they can just get things going on the right track going into the playoff season, get some of these people back, I think they're going to be still tough to beat, even though a three-peat's going to be difficult. It's going to be hard. But they go play the Browns this weekend on Sunday, and I was going to go to this game. It looks like it's going to be pretty cold, which it's always cold in December in Cleveland. Pretty miserable, so I'm not going to go watch it at home. Kansas City's a 5-point favorite, and you know who I'm going to take here. I'm going to take the Browns +5. I think the Chiefs will win the game, but I think the Browns will keep it close. I think it's going to be another slobber knocker. Seems like every Kansas City game is 19-17 or 19-16. This one's probably going to be the same way. I just think, it's going to be a Cleveland type of Super Bowl. I don't think they're going to have much. They don't have much to play for except pride, but I just think the Chiefs are just struggling right now and struggling to put teams away. So I think it's going to be low scoring. I like the under 43 as well, but I probably won't hit that one. But I do like the under 43 and also the Cleveland Browns to cover the 5 points. Then we got the Bengals coming here to Nashville, Tennessee to play the Titans. The Bengals still outside looking in the playoffs, but they have a very outside chance to get in. I don't think the Titans can keep up. The Titans looked horrible against Jacksonville last week, even though they had a couple of good games before that. This home field does not matter. The Bengals are coming to Tennessee. There may be just as many Bengals fans, if not more, than Titans fans. Bengals are 5-point favorites. Bengals, I think, beat them by at least a touchdown. I know the Bengals have been struggling. Their defense stinks. But Titans just all around have pretty much given up and are looking just to get that number one seed. So give me the Bengals. I don't like road favorites typically, but I do in this one. I think the Bengals have too much firepower for the Titans to keep up with. Burrow and Chase have been just unstoppable. The Commanders are at the Saints. I'm not going to really touch this game because I think the Saints have kind of given up. We had the one game that we won on the Saints, the first game after the new head coach came in. But since then, they haven't looked very good. Even though they're at home, they got beat pretty easily last week, which we also had that when they didn't play well at home last week. So the Commanders are 8 points favorites, but I'm not going to touch that one. We have the Ravens at the Giants, and they're a 16-point favorite at the Giants. I'm always taking a home dog of 10 points or more in the NFL. Almost always taking that home dog. So I'm taking the Giants +16. If it gets to 17, I really like it. I do think the Ravens win the game pretty easily. They're also, I think they're coming off a bye, but I think the Giants can muck it up, keep it a little close. Who knows who's going to start at quarterback for the Giants? I do believe it's going to be DeVito because I think Locke is out, but we'll see what happens there. But I would take any double-digit dog at home, especially if you're getting 17 points. Carolina is favored over the Cowboys. I'm not touching this one, but I cannot believe Carolina is actually favored over Dallas in any game. But that's how far the Cowboys have fallen. It's that bad in Dallas that they are 3-point underdogs at Carolina. I believe Carolina, I saw the number earlier today, it's 35 or 40 straight games they've been an underdog until this one. And the first time they're a favorite is against the Cowboys. And I love it. But Carolina's been playing pretty well. We've had them in the last couple of games, including against the Chiefs, where they actually went to overtime. But watch out. Carolina against Cowboys, I don't like this game. I'm not going to play it because these are two bad teams. So, no thank you. The Jets at the Jags. And the Jets are 4-point favorites at Jacksonville. These are not two terrible teams. 3-10. Both teams are 3-10. Give me a reason to watch this game. I have a reason I'm going to watch this game. I'm going to watch to see Aaron Rodgers fail again. I think the Jags at least cover the 4 points at home, even though they're terrible as well. I think they cover the 4 points. I think the Jets are awful. Give me the Jags to cover 4 at home versus the Aaron Rodgers-led Jets. Aaron Rodgers will throw at least 1 or 2 interceptions, maybe 1 interception and 1 fumble. We're going to pass on the Dolphins and Texans. That's might be a fun game to watch, but I don't have any feeling about that game and who might win or lose that game. The Colts at the Broncos. That's a tough one for me. The Broncos are giving 5 points to the Colts. One thing I really respect about the Broncos when I watched them play the Chiefs, they got a heck of a pass rush. Of course, the Chiefs' offensive line is not very good, but they are in Mahomes' face every time. If they do that with Anthony Richardson and the Colts, he might struggle or he might run a lot. I'm not really sure. But Bo Nix has had an incredible year. 17 touchdowns, 8 interceptions as a rookie, almost 3,000 yards already. They're at home. I'm not sure what the weather's going to be. I'm going to take Denver minus the 5 against the Colts. Don't love it because I usually like to pick the Colts to cover because they got Jonathan Taylor who usually keeps them in the game. But I do think the Denver Broncos defense will make some plays against Anthony Richardson. He'll make some mistakes, whether it's a fumble or a sack fumble or a bad pass late in the game, and the Denver Broncos will cover this game. Bills at Lions, best game of the weekend. 3:30 on CBS, 3:30 Central on CBS. Lions are favored by 2.5. The Bills get them. I've been waiting for this game. I like the fact that the Bills lost last week to the Rams. I want the Bills to lose because I'm a Chiefs fan, and Chiefs pretty much can clinch the number 1 seed if the Bills get one more loss and the Steelers get one more loss. And this is the Bills' last chance to lose a game. Honestly, the rest of their schedule is cake. I think they win it, though. I don't think the Lions are going to go 16-1 this year. I think they're going to get another loss. I think this is the one. Josh Allen wills his team. I don't even care about the 2.5 points. I'm taking the Bills to win this one outright at Detroit. It's only a 2.5 point spread. There's a reason for that. The Bills are for real, and this is a good chance for them to get a big victory and still have a chance of that number 1 seed in the AFC. Additionally, I think the AFC is just better than the NFC. So for the most part, I'm going to take AFC teams over NFC teams. Detroit's great. They are really good. Buffalo's also really good, and I think they get them here. Steelers at the Eagles. Another AFC, NFC great matchup. Both of these games could be Super Bowl games. They legitimately could be. These are the 4 of the 6 best teams in the NFL, and they're both playing at 3:30. Good job, NFL, scheduling that. Can we not flex one of them, or is it too early to flex one of these games? You better have a split screen on these two because they're both going to be good. Steelers at the Eagles Steelers plus 6. Give it to me all day. Give me the Steelers plus 6 at the Eagles. Their defense will keep it close. Eagles may win the game. The Eagles need to win the game to stay in the hunt for the number 1 seed. Steelers are still in the hunt for a bye and the number 1 seed in the AFC as well. I just think this game's going to be close. Give me the Steelers. Whenever you give me 6 points with a good coached, a well-coached Mike Tomlin coached Steelers team, I'm going to take it, even though the Eagles are really good as well. Give me the Eagles. I'm sorry. Give me the Steelers plus 6. That's probably going to drop to 5 or maybe even below that. So get that as high as you can. We've got the Bucks playing at the Chargers, and this one is one that I'm only going to take because I think that the Chargers are a much better all-around team. There is no home field advantage here. They're minus 2.5 against the Bucks. The Bucks defense, they played well off the bye. They really have. But the Chargers are just, to me, a really good all-around team, and that their defense can slow down Liam Cohen and Baker Mayfield. So give me the Chargers minus 2.5 over the Mayfield-led Bucks, even though Baker Mayfield, he has thrown 28 touchdowns. I will say, that's impressive, but he's also thrown 13 picks. So I see 1 or 2 picks in his future at the Chargers this weekend. Another great game we've got on Sunday night, which it should have been flexed to be the Lions or the what was the other game? Or the Eagles. It should have been one of those games. But the Packers at Seahawks. Big game. NFC matchup. Playoff implications for sure. Green Bay is a 3-point favorite at Seattle. Give me Seattle all day. Seattle all day at home. Green Bay, yeah, they're a good team. Seattle still in the hunt to win that division. Packers are in a really tough division. Geno Smith is having a pretty good year. Not his best, but same with Jordan Love. Not quite the same as he was last year. Seattle gets them at home at night in Seattle, and they're getting points. Give me Seattle +3, but I also like Seattle on the money line to cover this game. I'm not going to touch any of the Monday night games. Those are all I've got for you. Hopefully you have a happy, safe Friday the 13th, and I hope you have a great weekend this weekend. Everybody have fun, stay safe out there, and we'll talk to you next time. Peace out.